What's going on, everybody? We are living in some very strange times. Now, I'm going to wait a little bit until people join the live stream before I get started on my rant, but it's related to what is currently happening in both our administration, what's currently happening in our news cycle, what's currently happening in the media cycle, and also just something that's been ongoing that's really bothering me. And that is this weird performative virtue signaling debate around civility. In the aftermath of Sarah Huckabee Sanders being kicked out of Red Hen, Republicans absolutely lost their minds. Now everyone's talking about civility. Everyone is talking about discrimination. Everyone is talking about bigotry, including Mike Huckabee, Sarah's father, talking about how bigoted it is to refuse service politely to a top administration official who is currently helping prop up a fascist administration's ethno-state-based policies. I mean, it's just nuts. I feel like the problem here is we are taking the other side's word when they act like they're actually being honest. I'm sorry, but if your entire core principle revolves around triggering the libs and owning the libs and liberal tears and how everyone's a fucking snowflake, to turn around and say that we are the ones who are now being uncivil, and then liberal pundits immediately jumping on that bandwagon and start saying, wow, this is terrible, we should be more civil towards conservatives who do not respect our civility. I mean, it makes me question whether anyone is intellectually honest. It's just crazy. Like, especially when this is a form of protest. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has tremendous amounts of power. Okay? She is incredibly powerful. She is the press secretary of this administration. This is a small restaurant trying to protest this administration. And I think it's part of the structure of how American politics has generally been, where politicians rarely ever face consequences for their statements, and they very rarely face the consequences of the legislation that they pass, which is mind-boggling to me. Of course you need to hold politicians accountable. Of course you need to protest. And the whole idea of like civil disobedience or that's not the right way to protest, this is actually the right protest. Bullshit. There's no fucking right way to protest. Protesting is supposed to make the other side uncomfortable. That's the whole idea behind protest. How else will you tell people that you're upset? By what? Appealing to their... Like, you're not going to be able to appeal to their sensibilities. Has anyone you know ever changed their goddamn minds when the other side was being reasonable? Ever? I mean, it's crazy. It's just so hypocritical. Mike Huckabee literally said, I mean, he applauded the Oregon baker for not baking a cake for a gay couple in 2015. Then he turned around and said Red Hen was being bigoted towards his daughter. Then literally an hour apart, an hour later after that tweet, he turned around and said, this is Nancy Pelosi's team with a stock footage of MS-13 underneath it, which is literally racism. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. Does anyone even care? Or do we want to have this return to normalcy that we thought existed so badly that never existed, by the way? There was no such thing as a normalcy. It's just that this administration has ripped the Band-Aid off, basically, and now so many liberals are aware of the same realities that Republicans have been aware of for decades, and And when we turn around and argue in the same ways that they have for so fucking long, they turn around and claim that we are the bullies, that we aren't civil. Ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. Of course you're going to protest this administration. Of course you're going to protest Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And the reality is, if you think that what Sarah Huckabee Sanders is doing is not morally reprehensible, but you think that the people refusing her service or making her uncomfortable are, then you're the problem. You're a part of the problem. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying go out and deny service to anyone you perceive to be a Trump voter. Even though I think most Trump voters at this point who are still actively hyping up Trump are doing it because of the racist reasons. It's not like Donald Trump is helping them in any meaningful way. He's only performatively helping them. He's only pointing the finger at this immigration boogeyman. The immigrants are responsible for all the problems in your life. And what's going to happen when we completely shut off immigration? Then it's going to be maybe the naturalized citizens that came here, they just simply cannot adapt to American life and American norms. So maybe we should purge them too. The Gestapo didn't start off as the Gestapo. They didn't immediately outlaw being Jewish. They didn't enforce criminality upon certain subsects of the population overnight. It happened gradually over a period of time. And if you can't see that that's currently happening in this country, then you're probably either blind to the truth or you don't want to see it because it's offensive. It's scary. And sucks. It sucks to suck, but the truth is scary. The truth is supposed to frustrate you. I don't know what else to say anymore about this, man. It's just, I mean, you can teach idiots new things, but a lot of these people, especially in the administration, are completely aware of what the fuck they're doing. They are purely evil. They are not good people. So what do you do about that? What do you do when someone is consciously enacting terrible legislation, terrible laws, and terrible policies? I'm not saying we should be mean to random Trump supporters. I can't stress this enough. I think that humans are capable of nuanced opinions. I don't even hate people who are unintelligent, who support Trump and don't know any better. I don't even hate people who are not knowledgeable. I mean, it sucks, and it's definitely out of a position of privilege half the time that you have the privilege not to be knowledgeable about. I mean, if your existence was threatened in the same way that a lot of these people's existence is, then you probably would be more knowledgeable, but that isn't enough for me to hate you. That isn't enough for me to protest you, because I still think you can be saved, you can be reasoned with, but there are certain people who cannot be reasoned with, and those are the people who are enacting these policies. The Republican Party has been ringing the immigration bell and actively fear-mongering for decades. The Democratic Party has had to toe the line to how powerful that messaging has been for decades. I criticize this. I criticize this policy of compromise as well. It's one of the things I criticize a lot about the Democratic Party. But if I'm going to criticize the Democratic Party for compromising, especially when the Republicans can then turn around and use that compromise to make it seem like Democrats were actively in support of these policies and that they're only continuing the Democratic agenda, like the way Donald Trump talked about separation of children from their families. I mean, will we never learn from our past mistakes? It's just madness.